The leaders of Russia, France, and Germany have agreed in Moscow to work on a peace plan for the conflict in eastern Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin, France's Francois Hollande and German Chancellor Angela Merkel described talks on Friday as constructive. They will discuss the plan by telephone with Ukraine's President Petro Poroshenko on Sunday. Russia is accused of arming pro-Russian separatists, claims it denies. Fighting has left nearly 5,400 people dead since April, the UN says. Some 1.2 million Ukrainians have fled their homes since last April, when the rebels seized a big swathe of the Luhansk and Donetsk regions following Russia's annexation of Crimea. The situation is getting very dire indeed, Michael Bociurkiw, a spokesman for the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, Special Monitoring Mission in Ukraine, told the BBC. Over the past few days over 3,000 people have been evacuated, he said, adding that overcrowding in some evacuation centers meant that evacuees were being temporarily accommodated in train carriages in cold conditions. Behind closed doors. Few details of the peace plan have emerged, but it is thought to be an attempt to revive a September ceasefire, signed in Minsk in Belarus. Since then the rebels have seized more ground, raising alarm in Kiev and among Ukraine's backers. Diplomatic efforts will continue on Saturday at an international security conference in the German city of Munich, where Ms. Merkel, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov are all due to speak. It will not be what they say in public that matters but the private conversations in a raft of hastily arranged bilateral meetings behind closed doors, BBC diplomatic correspondent Jonathan Marcus reports. The peace proposal Mr. Hollande and Ms. Merkel took to Moscow on Friday was crafted with the Ukrainian government on Thursday. Mr. Hollande said the aim was not just a ceasefire but a comprehensive agreement, although Ms. Merkel said it was totally open whether that could be achieved. Senior Russian politician Alexei Pushkov praised the talks, and Ukrainian leader Petro Poroshenko said he thought the peace plan proposed by Ms. Merkel and Mr. Hollande could work, Reuters news agency reported. Questions any plan would have to address include the route of any new ceasefire line, given the rebel advances of recent weeks, how to enforce it, and the future status of the conflict zone, says the BBC's Sarah Rainsford in Moscow. Moscow is still denying any direct role in the conflict, while Kiev insists above all that Ukraine must remain united, our correspondent says. The Secretary-General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, has told the BBC that Moscow's support for the rebels in Ukraine is growing. We see a combination of Russian equipment provided by the Russians but also Russian troops, he said. Especially we have seen an increase in the supply of heavy equipment, artillery, tanks, advanced air defense systems. And some of these equipments are very advanced, they can only come from Russia and they can only be operated by people who have a lot of training, a lot of skills. And that just underscores that there are Russian troops in eastern Ukraine. Washington is considering Ukrainian pleas for better weaponry to fend off the rebels, raising European fears of an escalation in the conflict and spurring the latest peace bid.